welcome. Today I have with us a very special and a very important guest to discuss the nuances of the ongoing Manipur conflict. We've seen the Manipur conflict in the news for almost the last 2 months. There have been debates, there have been discussions, but we really have found that there is very little information going around on the laws, the rules, and the regulations, even if they're historical, for us to gain a better understanding of the issue. So today I have an absolute expert on the matter, Mr. Junior Luwang. He was enrolled as a lawyer with the Bar Council of Delhi in 1995 and has been practicing in the Supreme Court of India since more than 25 years. Apart from dealing with various aspects of corporate law, he was also a senior partner with Kocher and Company, one of the biggest law firms in India, for almost 8 years. And now he runs a law firm, Perfectus Legal, as its managing partner. Mr. Luwang, in his long career as a lawyer, has represented clients before courts of law as well as before many international commercial arbitration tribunals in India, as well as outside of India. He has drafted laws and has been involved in big ticket legal advisory work at the international level. He also finds time to regularly write on various issues in all of the leading English newspapers in Manipur, including on the present cookie Meitei mayhem. But what makes his voice really important, because uh, he is also a part of the representation of the party that is representing to the Supreme Court on the same matter, on the Manipur matter. So let me welcome you. Namaskar, Mr. Luwang. It is very kind of you to take the time out and be here with us to explain such an important matter.
Thank you, Rami. Thank you.
Sir, I'd like to begin by asking you if you could explain the conflict that has been going on in your state of Manipur for the last 2 months, in terms of the lens that we should be looking at it from. Because some people have said that it's a issue that's cropped up from the inclusion in the scheduled tribe demand of the Meitei. Some have said these are historical tensions. Some have said that this has something to do with Article 371C. Um, could you give us a brief of what the issue is?
Well, Rami, I think it has got a combination of whatever you just explained right now, the HT demand, NRC demand, then the government's recent drive against deforestation and all that, and the HT demand included. Now, to me, as a legal person, the whole issue has become as the serious issue as it is now because of misunderstandings about what is in place. I mean, on the ground as well as from a legal perspective. Now, let me just talk about what the cookies want. I mean, one of the communities involved. I mean, I'm not saying this because I'm a Meitei. I want to give a very fair and objective viewpoint. Now, what they're saying is that we don't want ST to be conferred on the Meiteis because they will dilute their benefits which are available to them under the ST tag. Well, I mean, to my mind, there's an absolute executive prerogative of the government of India to give or not to give ST tag to a particular community. There is something I think which we better leave to the president of India or to the executive. In fact, that's what even the Supreme Court have said in one of the hearings in the present matter in the Supreme Court. It's an absolute uh, executive privilege or discretion. Now, the Meiteis are not demanding to remove the ST tag from the tribals, or especially from the cookies. The Meiteis are demanding ST tag for themselves. So I mean, to my mind, our cookie brothers and our Nagar brothers cannot stop somebody from demanding what they feel they deserve, so long as the interests are protected. I mean, suppose tomorrow if ST tag has to be conferred on the Meiteis, they should understand that there will be separate reservations for the plain tribes and the hill tribes. So the reservation to that extent in the state job should be protected to that extent. They should realize that, and the right message should go to them. That is one. Now, finally, today, after a series of incidents and misunderstanding, some kind of a demand seems to have concretized from the cookie side, although it's not very clear by what they actually mean by separate administration. There is a whole lot of misunderstanding about it. Now, I, I ask myself, what is that they want? Separate administration. The answer is that separate administration is already there from 1971 for the tribals in Manipur, both for the Kukis as well as Nagas. If you talk about, say, the fifth schedule, the fifth schedule is partly extended, not fully, because the fifth schedule talks about two things. One is the autonomous councils and the government's power to you can say exempt laws from applications to tribal areas. One. Second, it also talks about a tribal advisory council. The tribal advisory council as on today is not extended to Manipur because of reasons known to the government. Second is that the most important aspect is that the tribals having their own autonomous governing council, which we call the hill areas tribal autonomous districts. There are such 6 districts in Manipur governing both the Nagas and Kukis, and there is a special act which is called Manipur Hill Areas Autonomous District Councils Act 1971, and now it has been renamed as 2000, the Manipur Hill Areas District Councils Act 2000. It has got substantial powers given to these autonomous district councils, which are basically tribals. It's an elected body. Each such district council consists of 26 members, 24 elected, directly elected, I mean elected by the tribals, both Kukis and Nagas, in 6 different regions in Manipur, and 2 nominated by the government of Manipur, in fact by the governor. Now, so to that extent, uh, the tribals in Manipur have been having a separate administration or a lot of autonomy in the administration of hill areas. They have been given powers even to establish schools, bridges, culverts, water drainage facilities, and to even frame laws on various issues, including but not limited to inheritance, property, divorce, and family matters. A lot of rules. I mean, they can also even levy taxes, fees, fines, whatever is possible within the hill area, the law gives that right and powers to just autonomous councils. Although it's another aspect that the hill councils are not functioning, maybe as effectively as somebody wants them to be because of various reasons, including but not limited to frequent interference by the local MLA, because the tribal bodies also have these tribal regions also have their own representation in the state assembly, MLAs. So there is a class of
Sorry to cut you, Mr. Luwang, but this is, I want to sort of look at this closer, because a lot of our viewers may not understand what we mean by scheduled tribe privileges. So let me break it a little bit, and ask you, what is
yeah,
the privileges that
yeah.
scheduled tribes in the state get?
The most, among other things, the most important ones are reservations in state services, and second is income tax exemption. And then obviously there are land rights which are exclusively available to the tribals in Manipur. Now, having talked about these autonomous councils which are already there in place and which is enough for anybody to say that they have been having this autonomous or separate administration, separate from the state administration for all this while. So there is something which has to be made clear to our tribal brothers, and it's time for the government to strengthen these separate autonomous councils in districts, because just because these councils are not functioning to the extent we want them to be, it doesn't, it should not give a right, or it should not give a, their own you can say enable our tribal brothers to say that they want separate administration. Because they are not effective, now they demand separate administration. Now, going a little, I want to go a little detail on what they actually mean by separate administration.
Correct. I was
If
just
we,
about to ask you that,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
could tell us in detail how the council is elected, what does it mean, and what powers are vested in them.
yeah, this powers, each such autonomous district has got 26 members. 24 elected by the tribal members or the people in that particular region. There are 6 regions which are governed by the autonomous district council: Susanpur, Senapati, and Chandel, Tamenglong, and Thadar Hills. So This is how they elect, how we appoint or elect these autonomous councils. In terms of powers, as I've explained before, they have got substantial powers: executive, legislative, and financial. Executive, to look after all the developmental work in hill areas. Legislative, to the extent that they can lay down laws on various rights affecting the people, including inheritance, divorce, marriage, and then to even run lay down rules and regulations for them for managing utility services and educational institutions like primary schools and everything. Now, on the financial side, as I have said before, they have even powers to levy taxes, fees, and all that. So they have this financial power, and there is a fund called Autonomous District Fund, to which the money goes from the state government. This is how this autonomous council bodies are supposed to function. So they have autonomous council for all these years, which is enough for us to call it to brand it as separate administration. Now let us discuss about this kind of separate administration they want now. See, going by the interviews of some of the tribal leaders, especially the Kuki leaders in media forums, what I understand is that by separate administration they mean an exercise of powers by the government of India under Article 3 of the Indian Constitution by creating a separate state for the cookies, or a separate union territory for the cookies only, or even the merger of these cookies in tribe habited areas to Mizoram. And the last one seems to have been indirectly supported by Jorathanga, who is the chief minister of Mizoram. He has openly said, I think on two occasions, that he wants some kind of a consolidation of the Jo tribe habited areas. So if they actually mean separate administration, the answer is yes, there is a separate administration already in place and they should be happy about it. But if they, by separate administration, if they mean a separate cookie state or a separate union territory, I think the same stands rule out, not by no less than the Home Minister of India, Mr. Amit Shah, when he came down to Manipur some weeks back, he made it very clear that there will be no dilution of Manipur's territorial integrity. So there has to be some kind of a communication gap, seems to be some kind of a communication gap between the mainland Meiteis and our tribal brothers on separate administration. We have given as much powers as possible to our tribal brothers as far as their autonomy to rule themselves is concerned. Second, Rami, the most important thing. Now, I ask myself a question, that which tribe in the world, even in India, has the right to own 90% of the land in a particular state, even though their population ratio is just 40%. And the remaining 60% is boxed in. Rami, I ask myself a question, that which tribe in India or even in the world has this privilege of having exclusive ownership or exclusive right to settle on land in 90% of a state, even though their demographic composition is just 40%. So 40% of our population control 90% of our land, and they have an equal right to buy land, to own land in the remaining 10%, as much as the general population like the Meitei have. So they have the right to buy, to own land, but in 90% we can't even go there because it's 90% land, because they have an exclusive right to stay, to occupy, and to settle in that 90% of the land. So Meiteis and the other some communities, in spite of constituting 60% of the demographic population of Manipur, are boxed in to just 10% of Manipur's land. This is a sheer injustice to the people of to the Meitei community, and it needs to be rectified, as soon as possible, and that is what the Meiteis want. The Meiteis are demanding ST tag. Uh, I mean, in my opinion, more because they feel little, you can say, taken off from the mainstream development aspects. One, because they are not tribals, and most importantly, because they have been taken out from 90% of Manipur's total land area. So that's one of the grievances the Meiteis have been having. Now, another privilege which is extended to our tribal brothers in Manipur is Article 371C. Now, Article 371C says that there will be a separate hill areas committee within the state assembly, Now, this Hill Areas Committee will consist of only elected MLAs of our tribal brothers. Right now, the Hill Areas Committee in Manipur has 20 members, 10 members from the Kuki community and 10 members from the Naga community. Now, whichever bill that has to be introduced in the state assembly has to go to this Hill Areas Committee unless and until the bill is a money bill. Now, no bill can be passed in the state assembly without reference to the Hill Areas Committee if that bill concerns hill areas. So nothing can be touched unless until we take their opinion or their recommendations on on the important aspects involved in the bill. So this is something which is provided only for our tribal brothers Manipur, and this provision is not extended to other tribes in India. So they have land rights, they have ST rights. I mean, as I explained, the job reservation, income tax exemption, they have 371, and they have autonomous district councils, which is established under a specific law passed for them. So the point is that our tribal brothers are quite privileged or protected. I mean, one of the most protected tribes in the world as far as the legal framework is concerned. Now, if they talk about separate administration from the perspective of a separate Kuki land or a separate state union territory or merger with Mizoram, and then I think that's a serious threat to Manipur's territorial integrity, and that is something the Meiteis will oppose to the nail. I'll tell you, I'll give an example to a particular incident that happened in 2001. There was this agreement attempted to be executed, or it was actually executed between the government of India and NACN-IM. While extending the ceasefire arrangement between NACN-IM and government of India, three words occurred in that particular agreement, that is without territorial limit, which basically means that the NACNs will be not treated as normal people. They will be arrested. They will be treated as surrendered whatever a group under negotiation, not only in Nagaland but also even in Manipur. So there was this huge backlash from the Meitei community, and I think people died, but no Naga member was touched by the Meiteis. So the issue of territorial integrity is very, very sensitive to the Meiteis, and there will be no Kuki land. There cannot be any Kuki land, or there can be no Indian territory for the Kukis only, because of a lot of reasons. One, because of the possible Meitei backlash, and second is that Rami, if a separate state or separate Indian territory has to be given to the Kukis, then we also have to give the same thing to our Naga brothers. And then ultimately what happens? The Kukis would have a separate Kuki state or Kuki unitary. The Nagas would have a separate Naga state or a Naga unitary, or possible merger with Nagaland, like in the form of Greater Nagaland. So the Meiteis will be left with just the Beli area, which is the minuscule part of the total land area of Manipur. So that's the worry that is coming from the Meitei side. But I'm sure that there will be no dilution of the territorial integrity of Manipur. There will be no separate state. There will be no separate Indian territory, or there will be no merger of any part of Manipur with any state in India, because that stands completely ruled out by none other than the Union Home Minister. So that's the most important message that should go to our tribal brothers. Yes,
Uh,
Rami.
Mr. Wang, that was very lucidly put. These are very complex situations, but you put it, with a great amount of clarity. And of course, I think any sort of any sort of territorial ambiguity or any sort of territorial change, I think the Home Minister of India has also made it clear is impossible to happen, right?
Right, right.
Now let me, because I want this to become really clear, the legality part of this and what are the privileges and what are the rights that are given to our viewers. So, from what I understand, scheduled right privileges are many, including reservation and administration, education, income tax exemption, as well as land
Right,
rights. Over and
right,
above that, there is the privileges that our tribal brothers and sisters have in terms of the fifth schedule, which allows them to have autonomous district councils. And these autonomous
yes,
district councils also have quite a bit of power vested in them, because you said there's executive, legislative, and financial, right?
yes,
But
yes,
there's also been this demand for the sixth schedule. Now, do you think
right,
this is
right.
because they don't know how, or they have not been able to, for whatever reasons,
Right.
really make the best use of the powers that has vested in them? Or is sixth schedule going to give them any extra powers?
Yeah,
What is
Rami, yeah, fully understand what has been given to them and what is the legal framework. Because the autonomous councils, as I said before, have not functioned the way it should function because of various reasons. One being a frequent clash between the autonomous council members and incumbent MLAs in those regions, because there's a clash of powers. Because and MLAs think that they're the masters of that particular region because he's elected person. And the autonomous council members feel that they also represent the people and they are also elected, although they are a member of a little lesser council, which is the hill areas district council or the particular region. So they have not functioned well to the extent one ideally would like them to be. That is one. Second, coming to the sixth schedule, Rami, of course the sixth schedule autonomous council or district council, they are a little more powerful than those councils which are in place in under the fifth schedule in Manipur. Uh, they have these councils do have, I mean, the sixth schedule council do have judicial powers also. They can have courts. I mean, a two-tier court system. One at the original, the first level, and second, there can be appellate courts also, to appeal from the original court to the appellate court, and to enable people to appeal from orders passed by the original, first court to the second court, which is the appellate court. But they cannot try, matters which are punishable by more than 5 years
titles?
years imprisonment. See, there is a dichotomy, Rami. The thing is that if they start demanding the sixth schedule, which are a little more powered than the fifth schedule, autonomous council, one, it is to go to the Nagas also. I mean, one, and second, the Meiteis will obviously, will also want to have their own pound of flesh. I mean, to be little crude, one pound of flesh is the reason that why should they be given more powers and the more powered district councils under sixth schedule, unless
Correct.
until some concession is extended to us.
Correct.
Concession, because maybe that we should scrap 371C, we should also scrap the land rights, okay, give them autonomous council and a sixth schedule. So there has to be some kind of a quid pro quo between the Meiteis and our Naga brothers and the Kuki brothers, if they actually want the sixth schedule. If tomorrow the sixth schedule councils are given to them, then the Meiteis also will surely look forward to their own pound of flesh. Either we also have land rights in the remaining 90%, as much as they have, because they have land rights in our area, which is 10%. So why should we be not given similar powers in hill areas? Or maybe they will say that, okay, give us the ST tag, because they have been enjoying the ST tag all this while. Most of the bureaucrats, if you see, Rami, in Manipur are mostly from the tribal communities, because it's easier for them to be successful in those examinations. And the Meiteis are lagging behind in terms of some kind of administrative control because of the lack of representations of their representations within the bureaucracy in the state. So there is something which is worrying the Meiteis. So if the government of India thinks that sixth schedule has to be extended to our tribal brothers, then equally they should think about what is possible to be given to the Meiteis. Unless until there is such quid pro quo, there will be huge backlash for the Meitei community. That's what I gather.
The ground has to be a level playing ground.
There has to be a level playing field, because you can't deny us SD rights, you can't deny us land rights, you can't deny us all these facilities which are available under the existing legal framework, and then but at the same time enhance their powers. Look, already they have
Correct.
a very highly, you can say, highly friendly legal framework for the tribes of Manipur, which is comparable to any other tribe, or even should I say more than on the usual privileges which are made available to other tribal communities in India as well as outside India. That's my reading of the existing legal framework. Yeah.
Mr. Luang, I would like to come to the status of the scheduled tribe for the Meiteis. But before that, I just want to clarify one point. It has said many times that this protection that the state of Nagaland gets, in
Right.
the sense of 371A, is very different from
Mhm.
371C. You know,
Right.
they almost,
Right.
people say that 371C almost disempowers the assembly, as opposed to, in Nagaland, it empowers the assembly. Could you explain why this is often said?
Yeah, right, right. Well, Rami, basically, what 371C says is that if there is a law to be introduced in the state assembly which concerns the hill areas, it is to go to the hill areas committee consisting of only our tribal MLAs. At present, as I said, there are 20 members of the hill areas committee, and sometimes there is a procrastination in their functioning in clearing those bills, because unless until some kind of opinion or recommendation come from them and those recommendations are considered by the assembly, no such bill, unless until it's a money bill,
Correct.
can be passed in the assembly.
Correct.
So it has got a procrastinating effect. But to be fair to the larger understanding, and the Hill Areas Committee at the same time is not in a position to block any bill. It's like a standing committee, where the bill goes to them for seeking their opinion or recommendations, and those recommendations are considered. But again, when the assembly passes a law, it may or may not necessarily contain the recommendations of the opinion of the Hill Areas Committee. But the fact of the matter is that it procrastinates the whole process. So why should we have a separate law passing system for the hilly areas? Because for other areas, it just goes it just goes to the assembly, and the assembly may pass, may not pass. But as far as hill areas are concerned, why do we have a separate legal for them? More so when they have their autonomous council set up in six regions in Manipur, and more so they have such huge land rights to 90% of Manipur's land, in spite of their 40% demographic composition. So this is something which is haunting the Meitei community for all this while. So if the government of India has to consider or accommodate some of the demands of our tribal Kuki brothers, then they should also similarly think about some kind of a concession or a good quid pro quo for the Meiteis. Otherwise, there will be huge backlash.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Rami, let me just, I forgot to say something when I answer your first question. Now, you see, the cookies are demanding a separate state or a separate union territory. Now, see, even if there is a political will of the government of India, let's presume for a moment. Now, how can they create a separate state or a separate union territory for the cookies when the cookies are themselves are spread across the whole of Manipur? If you see Churchandpur, there's a lot of it's basically a cookie dominated area. Then we have More at some other part of Manipur, which again is cookie dominated. How do you create a cookie dominated state or a union territory? It's humanly impossible unless until we ask them to migrate to Churchandpur and create some kind of a geographical entity for them. So it's not possible. And second is that the Nagas will also surely oppose, because a lot of Nagas said it's our land, the Kuki said it's our land, like Kangpokpi, Seru, some areas are there. So those areas are contested areas, and there will be huge, you can say, fight, not only between the Meiteis and Kukis, but also between the Nagas and the Kukis. If you listen to the press conference given by 10 Naga MLAs some time back, they made it very clear that they are against a separate administration system for the cookies, because even the Naga's demand or Naga issues are being negotiated between the government of India and the Nagas in what they call the peace process. So they said we can't accept the separate administration as demanded by the cookies. And if it practically happens tomorrow, there will be a lot of hue and cry and a bloodshed at the ground. So it would only aggravate the whole situation. That's my understanding of the ground realities. Yeah.
Quite right. This is my understanding of the ground realities, and all the people have spoken on the ground. The
Yeah.
sentiments seem to match what you're saying.
Right.
But
Right.
let me come to the veracity of the demand itself. The demand
Mm-hmm.
for scheduled tribe inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that this petition was put in around 2013, and then the judgment came, and during the time of the British, even the Meiteis were considered forest tribes. But with its accession, the state's accession with India, they somehow did not fall under the scheduled tribe status, or they chose not to fall under the scheduled tribe status. Can you tell us,
Yeah,
uh,
right.
can you tell us the veracity of this claim? Something more about it.
Yeah, Rami, actually is a very difficult question to answer because this basically relates to the factual aspect of the matter. What I understand is that when Meiteis were asked or the opinion was taken of whether they want to be an ST tribe or otherwise, then the Meitei community itself is quite divided. Although largely most of the people Meiteis are in favor of being a single tribe because there are privileged groups within the Meiteis like and the the Brahmins,
Yeah.
there are other people, other privileged group amongst the Meiteis also, like the Rajkumars, the Brahmins, and of course some elite section of the Meitei community. There was some opposition by them, and that is how Meiteis were not put under scheduled tribe. Although the British had treated the Meiteis as scheduled tribe, but again, the Rami, whether the Meiteis fulfills all the important or all the criteria which are required for the ST tag, that is basically something which is usually left to the executive discretion of the government. In fact, there are case laws of the Supreme Court also that the judges should not interfere in this kind of a ST tech process. This is exclusive government. In fact, this was somehow a matter came before the High Court of Manipur, and a single bench had passed an order basically asking the government to give an opinion whether for or against the ST for the Meiteis, and not necessarily directing the government of Manipur to
Correct.
bracket the Meiteis as ST, but basically to forward to the government of India what is their recommendations, what is their opinion. So it, to an extent, aggravated or has supposedly given rise to the Kuki, or Naga, whatever tribal protest rally on 3rd of May, and that is how we have come to the present situation. My understanding is that our Kuki brothers feel it very convenient to raise the issue of ST demand by the Meitei community to justify their so-called protest, peace protest rally, whatever, which unfortunately had culminated in a lot of law and order situation, arsons, deaths, everything. But there are other deeper, I think, issues which are involved, according to me, because somehow our tribal brothers have not been fully convinced. I mean, I would say it's a failure of the majority. There's some of the schemes launched by the government, like the supposed, the NRC, the drive against, deforestation. I'll put in a perspective. They feel that these are all community targeted. These are all cookie targeted schemes of the government of Manipur, which according to me is wrong. I'll tell you why it is wrong. See, the deforestation or the deforestation or eviction from the hill areas, it was not started. And it was not started against the cookies initial. I mean, obviously, the government has to identify who are there in the forest, occupying forest land, protect the forest, this and that. See, my understanding is that it was started against or in some areas habitated by the Meitei Muslims and the Meiteis themselves. It's a Kapsing district. There were a lot of hue and cry, law and order issue, and a lot of people were evicted from these hilly areas, occupied by the Meitei Muslims, occupied by the Meitei Muslims and the Meiteis themselves. And then when the same operation was, then it becomes a Kuki Meitei issue, which is not fair. Occupying reserve forest or protected forest, and then one has no reason to feel targeted or aggrieved by it because this is something which is applicable across the board. That is one.
Correct.
Second is
Reserve
that even
forests are under
NRC,
central
see,
government, right? It's anyway
beg
central
your pardon?
government.
Yeah, it's a central government. This is normal, schemes which are launched in the Forest Act. The government has to do it because you can't encroach on a
Correct.
protected forest area, on a reserve forest area. That is one. And second is that the NRC, the NRC. See, if you know, I mean, I know you, everybody knows it. See, the NRC is something which was, implemented in Assam, and it was implemented. It was done quite well, except that there were some infirmities in data collection, this and that. Some issues had come up, but otherwise, the NRC, which is being which was being implemented in Assam is judicially sanctioned. It was done under the supervision of the Supreme Court. If you follow the whole facts of the matter, and so if NRC can be done in Assam, why can't it be done in Manipur? And even our Naga brothers, the Kuki brothers, do not have any reason to feel about it or targeted about it. It applies to all the illegal immigrants. Now, the only problem in Manipur, as far as NRC is concerned, is the base year, Rami. Base year, most of the Meiteis, they want either 1951 or 1961 as the base year for the purpose of identifying the illegal immigrants. Whereas under the Assam scheme, the Assam NRC scheme, the base year is 1971. I mean, if I remember correctly, it's 24th March 1971. And there's a reason for adopting this base year, because this is a year which is agreed upon, or which was agreed upon and included in the treaty between Mrs. Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister, and the then leader of Bangladesh after the end of the Bangladesh war. Because the Bangladesh government wanted the Bangladeshis in India who had entered India before this date to be protected and to be given adult franchise rights and to become as citizens of India. Now, this also is a debt which is also reflected in the Assam Accord between the government of India and the Assam student bodies. And this also is a base here which was reflected in the IMDT Act. Although the act has been quashed, in fact, I was a part of the legal team representing the state of Assam when the act still was challenged. So 1971 has been adopted for a particular reason. Now, the only problem of implementing NRC Manipur seems to be the base year, and because the Meiteis they don't want 1971, they want 1961 or 51. This has to be thrust out between the government of India and the government of Manipur, and most importantly, this also has to be acceptable to the judiciary, because in India, whenever any scheme is launched, I mean, we see a flurry of challenges before courts of law. So we have to have a basis to say that 1951 is a good base year. 1961 is a good base year. There has to be some justification for that. So the Meiteis have to be able to justify that. So again, all these issues need to be made clear to our Kuki and the tribal Naga brothers that these are not community targeted schemes. These are schemes which are otherwise Shah has gone on record to say that the whole of India will one day have an NRC. NRC has to be implemented across India. I mean, right now Assam is going for it. Manipur might go, might not go, but Manipur will go, I suppose, after a point of time. But it should not be a state exercise. It should be a national exercise, NRC, because the illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, we know, the immigrants from Myanmar, of course, there is some kind of a community bracketing of what is Myanmar, illegal immigrant or otherwise. The whole issue has to be resolved at one point of time, and this can be done only through an effective NRC. But when you have an NRC, then we should also try to avoid some of the infirmities which the Assam NRC has suffered at the data collection and data protection, and a lot of infirmities have been pointed out. Those have to be taken into account. Yes, Rami.
So, Mr. Luang, I mean, NRC, of course, has been done in other countries also, and really, I think it should be accepted, and this is my personal opinion, by pretty much everybody who wants the welfare of the state. However,
Right,
if it's 1961, let's say, or even if it's 1971, by
right.
now, there would
Mhm.
be one or two further generations of the people who had come in after that, right?
Right,
How would
right.
we tackle that situation then? Because there could be
You
people
mean
who are born here.
right? Well, see, see what under that's what I'm saying. The Assam model of NRC should be adopted. They have there are already inbuilt provisions for that, for identifying the illegal immigrants, and those criteria for identification has been judicially accepted, because the Assam NRC was done under judicial supervision of the Supreme Court of India. So those things can be taken care of. The only thing which we have to implement differently than what is there in Assam is basically the base year. Whether we should
Yeah,
have the
the
same
base
base year in
years.
1971, or 61 or 51. So that will be a point of debate amongst the intellectuals and the bureaucratic circles. Another is how to avoid the infirmities which the Assam system has
Correct.
suffered. If you look at the newspaper reports, they have a lot of problems. Infirmity. Those infirmities have to be taken care of, and a reasonable base year has to be adopted, either 1971, 61, 51. But there has to be a judicially justifiable reasons to have that base year. That's a challenge which we are facing right now.
That
Yes,
is a
Rami.
that is a challenge. That is a big challenge. But I'm sure
Right.
there'll be some answers that would be found for that as
Absolutely.
well. But let me come back to one more question I had is, how or when did it happen that the Meiteis got confined to the valley? This obviously was not the case during the British times. I think the Meiteis were allowed to live across the state. Uh, so when was it that they were confined to the valley?
Well, there is an act called Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reforms Act 1960. Now there are two, three ways of looking at it. One is that we amend Section 2J of the Act to say that this Act will apply to all the areas of Manipur, hilly or plain, so that the Meiteis can go settle and live in the hills as much as our hilly people can come down to the valley, own land, build houses and live. There is one way of solving it. Now, if there is obviously there will be a huge backlash from our tribal community people, because suddenly from having exclusive right on over 90% of land area, they become as good as the Meiteis in terms of land ownership. There will be some kind of a law and order problem. Now, one way of solving this is this. I was thinking over it. So why can't we make the hilly areas proportionate to the population of the hilly tribes? Say, suppose if they constitute, say, 40% of Manipur's territory, if the population, then they should be given land which is proportionate to the proportion of their population to total Manipur's total population. So
Hmm.
hilly areas can be defined in such a way that it only covers 40% of Manipur's land, so that they have exclusive rights over 40%. We can't go and live there because it's a tribal area land, it's a hilly area land. Whereas the Meiteis and the other communities who are not tribals are 60% of Manipur's population, so they be entitled to 60% of Manipur's land. So that's one way of looking at it, so that there is a fair and just ownership of land in terms of say population ratio. There's another way of looking at it. But straightway at the moment, I mean, if we go for the ST tech and then become suddenly entitled to the whole area of Manipur, wherever hilly area or plain area, there could be, I mean, this is something which is fair to be done. But at the ground level, I think one way of extending some kind of justice to the Meitei community will be to give them their a portion of the land which is proportionate to their demographic composition by amending Section 2J of the Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reforms Act 1960. Yeah.
Correct, correct. Mr. Luang, thank you so much for explaining all of this in detail because I think, Manipur I've always thought is a complex state and, it has even more complex laws and
Right.
rules, so it's
Mm-hmm.
important for everybody to understand what the
Mm-hmm.
provisions are. But let me come to one
Right.
last question is, your suggestions seem, fairly rational and, doable at this point. However, because of the prolonged conflict in the last 2 months and because of the heightened emotional
Right.
reactions that we've seen, it seems like the stances have become very hardened. Nobody is willing to
Right.
space.
Right.
What sort of way forward do you
Right.
see for the community, all the communities involved?
Yeah. Yeah. Rami, see, there was some kind of a very hard stand taken by our cookie representatives. I mean, if you go by the interviews of Paulinam Hawkif, then Kham Khan Swa Hawksing, and then other cookie representatives in the national media. Now, but I was very encouraged to watch the interview of Mr. Kim Gangte in one of the channels. I mean, she said that the cookies are not going to be may not demand separate middle part. That's what she said. So if we go by what Kim Bangte said, that's the encouraging part of it. And I think that's the way to go forward. As you said rightly, Rami, that it could be too difficult at this point of time to introduce landmark changes in Manipur, because it can go either way and then worsen the whole situation. But at the same time, it is also the right time for the government of India to introduce such drastic changes. I'll tell you why. Because there are around 34,000 troops and paramilitary forces in Manipur. Just as it happened in Kashmir when Article 371 was taken off, you see the first thing they did is to put in a lot of, you can say, paramilitary forces in Kashmir, and then they did what they did. So there may not be any better time for the government of India also to introduce drastic changes in Manipur, because they already have around 34,000 troops in Manipur. Maybe it could be in the form of a ST tag for Meiteis or land rights for Meiteis, or whichever way or in Indian territory. That is out of the question, because it stands a little rule out. But if the government has to go for some kind of a drastic reform by extending equal rights on land to the Meiteis or ST tag, whatever, this is the right time. Although, as I said, there's a risk involved, but again, there's always a risk in everything. So it's the right time for the government to do that. I mean,
Correct.
even I have, yeah, right, Rami. So
Correct.
the way forward, Rami, I mean, I'll just come two, three sentences
Please.
more. The way forward is basically for the Kuki tribal leaders, because see, in these tribal areas, their kings and the leaders and they are very important, because people listen to them. They have a proper faith in their leaders. So, and it's not that at a personal level the Meiteis and Kukis have a bad rapport. Still, there are a lot of Kuki people also talk to me, and Meitei is also same thing. The feeling is like we were like neighbors for a long time. We have stood together, side by side for all this while, and suddenly all this thing happened. So I don't see any reason for our Kuki leaders not to sit together, Meitei and Kuki leaders, and then thrust out issues which are challenging to both the communities. So first, it should start with some kind of a reconciliation process between the Kuki and the Meitei leaders at the CSO level, and then we should know what is acceptable to and what is not acceptable to the other community. Yes, Rami.
Correct. Mr. Luwang, I think that is a very good idea
Right.
because considering that Manipur has so many CSOs already, I mean,
Right, Rami.
there should really be a CSO that comes together, bringing important people from all these communities together under its umbrella with an open mind to engage in some amount of dialogue. Because I don't think that before starting dialogue, any of these tempers can be calmed down. But
Right, Rami. Right.
yeah, and of course, Mr. Luang, I have so many more questions, but I think these processes are going to take time, even processes, pertaining to our rules, regulations, laws, peace is going to take some time to re-establish itself in Manipur. So I am sure I will have the opportunity again to, have a discussion with you on this extremely, extremely important subject and on an extremely important state of our country.
Right,
Manipur,
Rami. Right.
yeah, Manipur is very close to our hearts and it's very important to us strategically also. So I'm sure I'm
Right.
going to have more opportunities to further discuss this. But thank you so much, Mr. Luang, for taking the time out and really giving us an in-depth
Thank you.
view
Thank you.
of what all of this means. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you, Rami. Thank you. Thank you.